So I've always had crazy business ideas, right? I cannot walk across an empty room without getting inspired by something. That's just the person I am. And I've come to terms with that now. It's Maxine. I'm not academic, but I've built a multi-million-pound business. Everything that felt really hard then gave me so many qualities that I use every single day today, whether it's resilience, intuition. I've always had to prove myself to myself, not to anyone else, because I always felt the underdog.
So it was almost trying to prove to yourself that you weren't what everybody else thought of you.
100%. First offer I got was in Birmingham. I'm not going to mention his name either. And he said, your business is worth 5 million. I'll put in 1 million. I was like, oh my God, that's really good. And I went, do you know what? I'm just going to have a look out.
You said you were doing 10 million of revenue.
I was very naive, by the way. I then said, I'm just going to go. I'm not sure about that. And I went to an investment bank and our business was valued at £42 million.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable, actually. Divorce is ugly.
I don't think I've heard any stories of where it's pleasant.
Well, we tried to go down the collaborative route where we both sat in a room and chatted with our solicitors. My solicitor was vile.
Your solicitor?
Yep.
Who chose yours?
Me. Because it was the one that everyone told me to go to because she is really good with women. She said to me, within the first hour, how many credit cards and debit cards you got? And I went, I don't know, 4. She went, draw the maximum amount out every day on every single one until you get stopped.
She basically wanted to screw him every which way.
And I said, no. I was the only woman to have ever refused. We are divorcing. I never married a bad man.
And were you happy?
I've always thought there was more. I always knew there was more. And I didn't know what that more was, by the way. I'm not saying it was financial. I just knew there was more to life than whatever this was. If I removed every single external mask, would I disappear in people's vision? What it made me realise is I'd...
Building wealth has never been just about money. It's about decisions, about taking calculated risks, knowing how to make your strengths work for you. It's about navigating those moments that change everything. This is Femme Fortune, conversations with women who've built wealth and how they actually built it.
Welcome to the Femme and Fortune podcast. I'm your host, Ayesha Ofori, and this series is all about unpacking how women really build wealth. So today I am so excited to be joined by Maxine Laceby, founder of Absolute Collagen, the UK's #1 collagen brand. And can I just say, it absolutely works. I am living proof. Maxine is an absolute powerhouse and started Absolute Collagen from her kitchen. I will leave it there because I'll let you delve into much more detail. So Maxine, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No, I am so excited for this. I've known you for quite a while now, and I know your story. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is sometimes when, you see all these like very, very, successful, famous, wealthy people. And I think the tendency is always to think like, oh, I can't do that. I can't do that. So when I heard your story, I was like, yes, we need to get it out there.
Can do that.
Okay, so I think that's a good place for us to start. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about your life before Absolute Collagen? So where were you born? Where did you grow up? What was it like? And then obviously you have children. So tell us a bit about the different phases of life, before kids, when they're young, etc.
Yeah, so thank you. Thanks for having me, by the way. Yeah, so I grew up, I'm 60 tomorrow. Oh my God, it's so exciting.
Congratulations.
I know, thank you. I don't know why I'm so excited, a bit weird, but hey ho.
You look absolutely fabulous.
Thank you, darling. It's how you feel, isn't it? I grew up in Bath in a council estate in late 60s, 70s. And my mother was a single parent. She was an alcoholic. She's no longer with us, bless her. And life was tough. But I didn't know it was tough because everyone in the street was the same as me. And what I will say is everything that felt really hard then gave me so many qualities that I use every single day today, whether it's resilience, intuition, all those things that you think, I learned intuition because I was left on my own a lot as a child. And so I had to read the room. That's a quality today. And so, that was my childhood.
I call it street smarts.
Yeah,
there are people who are book smart, but when you're in a certain environment or you had to grow up in a certain place, there are things that like you pick up on the intuition or how you read people or things like that you can't get from a book.
You can't get from a book. And also I'm really comfortable no matter where I am. So I walk all the way through London. I really don't care where I am. I'm really comfortable. Because I know what nothing phases me, which is a bit sometimes. So I went to school, hated school. School hated me. Literally. I felt so let down by school. My mum used to work nights, 2 nights a week when I was 13, and I was left in the house on my own.
Okay.
But I didn't ever stay in the house on my own.
Oh, really? What were you doing?
For some bizarre reason, I'd worked out. I didn't feel safe in the house. I felt safer outside.
Okay.
But I'm an outdoor person. I love being outdoors. But I'd worked out if I was outside, I needed not to be seen.
Okay.
So I'd go on the riverbank and play on the riverbank and walk.
Wow.
Yeah.
At night?
All night long.
Wow. And your mum had no idea?
My mum hadn't. She caught me once. No idea. And then so I'd literally get home just before it got light, before mum got home. There was this young man. Oh, my friend was Hungarian and her dad was a beautiful man. And I would turn up at the house at 6 o'clock in the morning. Right? 6 o'clock in the morning. Imagine your friends, your children's friends turning up at 6 in the morning. Right?
I'd be like, what is going on? I need to call their parents.
Yeah. But you know what? He never questioned me. He just allowed me to sit. And I think he kind of knew that something wasn't quite right. And I always love him for that. But consequently, I was always absolutely shattered at school.
So is that why you sort of think, when you said, you didn't like school, school didn't like you, like what was it?
I think that's one element. Okay. I think I was born on the wrong side of a council estate. I don't know what my mother's behaviour was like. So I was the one everyone looked down on.
Okay.
I've been diagnosed with ADHD. It wasn't diagnosed as a child. So that had its own stuff going on. And I absolutely hated school with a passion. I didn't get it, didn't understand it. It did nothing for me. And I still feel a bit angry about that. And I do think the education system still lets children down because it is based on academia.
Yep.
And I'm not academic, but I've built a multi-million-pound business.
Yep.
And it's things I learned from my misplaced childhood, if you like. And I still think children get let down, I mean, I know GCHQ have now started employing neurodiverse people because they need that thinking.
Yep, they needed the diversity of thought.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So I think there is superpowers to being ADHD, but I also think it comes with a lot of, it hasn't always done me brilliant. So school I hated, left school a couple of weeks before my 16th birthday because I broke my arm.
So did you finish GCSEs or A-levels or anything like that?
CSEs, darling. I'm older than that. CSEs,
okay.
Again, my mum was illiterate. And so she couldn't read or write. And I didn't know that till I was probably about 13, 14. And I was never made to do homework. The thing in my house was you earn money. You are here to earn money. And it wasn't like slave labor or anything like that. It was just, we had nothing and you go and earn money. So right from when I could, I worked in cafes and chambermaid and cleaned offices. And then I wanted to be a hairdresser. And my mum said, forget that. It was £32.50 a month or week or whatever it was. I know it was hardly any money. Go and get a proper job.
Okay.
So I went to work in a factory to earn proper, in inverted commas, money. And the expectations of me, do you know what? I smile when I say this because there was no expectations, and that was quite nice because I know that some of my friends had huge expectations on them. The only expectation that was ever expected of me was not to get pregnant. Okay. It's quite sad, isn't it?
I guess so. But I think for some people that is the situation. Yeah. But I think something that you mentioned is about not having expectations. It's a bit similar to being underestimated, right? And I think you can actually use that to your advantage because if people underestimate you or they're not expecting anything from you, you don't actually have to do that much to deliver. So when you do start to deliver, it's almost like they don't even see it coming.
That is very, very true. And I get that. However, the other part of that, when there's no expectations of you, but there is expectations of your brother, you don't feel worthy. And so I've always had to prove myself to myself, not to anyone else.
Okay.
Because I always felt the underdog.
Okay.
And I kind of believed that for a long time. I'm nothing. I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that.
So it was almost trying to prove to yourself that you weren't what everybody else thought
100%,
of you.
100%.
But I guess that gave you drive.
Yeah, it really did give me drive. I was always the owl in the nest growing up. So I'm adopted. And I am absolutely nothing like my family. And my mum and dad were beautiful people. They both passed away now.
Mm-hmm.
And they were lovely, lovely, lovely people that wanted for nothing. And emotionally, even though my mum had her issues, they were both very giving.
So what age were you adopted?
I was adopted from birth, but then there was complications. So I went into, I think the nurses kind of at home or hospital, whatever, looked after me. So I was 10 months when I went to my mum and dad's.
Okay.
And I think, yeah, because there was no expectations, I didn't really expect anything of myself, but I was definitely the owl in the nest. And I kind of withdrew my personality a lot.
Okay.
Because they didn't get me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was okay.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of didn't feel unseen. I just knew that I was different. Now, looking back, I don't know if that's because I was adopted. I don't know if that's ADHD or is that just my personality? Who knows, right? So I always withdrew my personality, always. And I still do it now. And it's
really? It's so funny because obviously I know you and whenever I've met you, you are just a ball of energy.
Depends who I'm with. If I feel really comfortable around somebody, you'll see my true.
Yeah. Well, then I'm very flattered.
You are, because I absolutely, and the moment I met you, I felt comfortable with you. That was obvious.
Yeah.
And I my intuition is pretty good.
Yep.
What I tend to do, and I'm working on it now actually, is if I'm with certain people, I can withdraw and make myself small.
Okay.
And I'm working on it. So I don't know where it's come from. But I do that.
Okay.
I will make myself small sometimes to make people feel bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes
it's sort of like shrinking to fit the environment.
Doesn't do me any favors though, because I can come across quite off.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because I'm allowing somebody else to be. And that's a gift. But sometimes it does me no favors.
Okay.
Then people get to know me and they'll go, "Oh my God, you're really nice."
Well, I only know one side of you, as I said.
But that says a lot.
Yeah.
That if you see the side of me that's this, that absolutely says a lot. It means I really feel comfortable with you.
Okay.
And but if I don't, if there's something about you that, some people just, the world I live in, my business, there's people that will elevate themselves to celebrity status. I can't stand it. I can't bear it.
Yeah.
I honestly can't bear it. And I find myself withdrawing from them. I'm like, ooh.
Okay.
But it just doesn't do me any favors.
So you can only really be yourself when you're around people that you trust, that you click with, that you feel.
You've got to feel it, right?
Yeah.
You have to feel it. Mm-hmm. And I am quite a feely person. I'm quite an emotional person. But the shrinking part I am working on because it doesn't do me any favors.
So let's go back to sort of 16-year-old you.
Yes.
You said that you went to work in a factory to earn what was called at the time proper money. Yep. So then what happened? How long you were there? What happened next?
I was there 4 years, which is a long time.
What sort of factory was it?
It was a bookbinding factory.
Okay.
It was probably less than 4 years, maybe about 3 years. And do you know what I do remember? I remember those days with a smile because boy, did we have fun. We were earning loads of money for a 16-year-old, right? My friend was a hairdresser earning nothing. I was earning all this money, I thought. And all we ever did was have fun. And I remember my friend used to operate one of the bookbinding machines. And we just laughed the whole day. It was fun. Okay. When you see these films of factory workers like from the set, it was like that. It was great fun. And there was no expectations.
Mm-hmm. It was just sort of make money, bring money in for that week. And
I'd get up, I'd walk. I didn't drive then. I'd walk to work. I'd walk home. And that's something at school. We were talking about this with my daughter recently. My school was about 3.5, 4 miles from my house. I had to walk to school every single day and back again.
Okay.
And I wonder if that's sometimes why I like being outdoors as well.
Yep.
And I just walked to work. I'd work really hard. I'd go home. I'd go to bed. My life was very, 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 very simple.
Mm-hmm. And were you staying in at night at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't do anything. Honestly. And then I started going out and, going in town on a Friday night and all of that. But again, I think when I think about it, actually, it was a good way to be because I was only 16, 17. So that is quite a young age. And I don't think I'd have coped with anything more than that anyway. Okay. All I had to do was earn money, work and go home. It was actually quite simple.
And you were happy.
And I was happy. Yeah. So, and then I met I met somebody at the factory and he said, I want to go around Europe. Nobody was backpacking or doing anything then. I'm talking many, many years ago, 43 years ago, 42 years ago. And I said, great, but can we do it on bikes? Because I kind of thought of being in a car, can't bear it.
Yeah.
And this is funny, actually, because this is so Maxine. I can see it now. And he was like, yeah, all right. So I went and bought a bike. I mean, a 5-gear touring bike. He had the top, everything bike.
Yep.
And I remember we went from Essex, where I used to live, and I think it was Folkestone or something, we got on the ferry. And I couldn't even cycle the bike up the gangplank of the ferry because I was so unfit. And there I was going to cycle around
Europe.
Yeah. And we did.
When you said it, I was thinking about myself. I'm like, okay, I'm semi-fit. I go to the gym, but cycling uphill, absolutely not.
It is hard work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I seem not to see fear.
Okay.
And I don't, I just say, yeah, I'll do it. And I do it. I'm very much a doer. So I always say to people, if I say I'm going to do something, I will do it. So be scared. So don't think I'm one of those people that say, oh yeah, let's do that. And not, I will do it. Yep. So that was that. Then we came back and I loved cycling around Europe. It took 10 months. And it was the olden days where we had to get someone to wire us money because there was no bank. There was no
electronic
cash points. It was crazy. And I remember we ran out of money and we had to go live on the riverbank, funnily enough, river again, for a few days. And we had to boil the water to drink it, God, and all those things. But it was fun. I loved it, actually. And we camped.
Yep.
And we cycled every day. And I think one day we went from Venice to Lake Garda overnight and cycled overnight. And it was a great experience. And I kind of didn't realise then what I was made of, I suppose. Yeah, then we came back and we lived in Essex and Canvey Island. And then we bought a house. And then one day I woke up and went, I don't want to do this anymore. You're not the man I thought you were.
Did you get married?
Nope.
Was that a conscious decision?
I don't even consider getting married then. I was probably about 19 then. It was like, didn't even think about it. I think we had planned to get married, actually. And I think I cancelled at the last minute and no one took any notice because I didn't think they thought we would get married anyway.
Okay.
It was one of those sort of things. And I just woke up one morning and realised, you know what? You're not the man I thought you were. He was quite, he was a bully.
Okay.
And we bought this house. He'd made quite a lot of money on the house. And I woke up and
sorry, you bought the house together?
Yeah.
At 19?
Yeah. Well, I bought my first house before that. So the first house I bought was in Bath and we paid £33,000 for it. It was on St Kilda's Road, 33 St Kilda's Road, Oakville Park, Bath. And we sold it 16 weeks, 4 months later for £45,000.
And that's you and your partner. And how did you afford it? Was that money just that you saved from the factory?
Yeah, we just earned. And
Amazing.
I remember, if you go back to that, I remember like the interest being like 13% or something crazy. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we made, so we bought it for 33, we sold it for 45, 4 months later. And then,
so basically you were a property investor in your teens.
I wish I'd known it though, because Jesus Christ, if we'd have kept that house, when we came back from cycling, it had gone phenomenally again. And now I think that house would probably be worth like 400 grand.
So what was it that got you into property investing so young?
Well, I wasn't really into property investing at all. He just said, let's buy a house. I was like, yeah, okay.
Okay.
It was no like big plan.
Yep.
Oh God, I wish it was, but it wasn't.
Okay.
Yeah, then we bought our second house on Canvey Island. And then I woke up one morning and went, I'm not happy. I put I took train fare, put it in my back pocket and left with nothing, just a train fare.
You just left?
Yeah.
You left all your stuff?
Yeah.
And because you wanted to get away that badly?
Yeah.
Or?
Yeah. I mean, he was violent.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just left everything. Yeah. Didn't even give a second thought. There was no...
Your primary thing was, I just need to get away from this man.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'd found the courage that day to do it.
Do you remember what it was? What was it about that day in particular?
I think I just had enough. Okay. I just think when you're in a situation that you know is not right, it's not always your first instinct that you sometimes you need to feel it time and time again. You know, the woman that keeps going back or the man that keeps going back or whatever. And then suddenly you just go, right, I'm done.
And you snap.
And I'm very much like that.
So am I. When my husband knows it as well. When I say like, oh, this is getting too much. But once I passed that point, it's over. It's done.
Yeah.
I've made the decision. I'm not
Yeah.
going back. There's nothing you can do to change my mind. I've decided. I'm the same.
I think that's quite a good thing, actually, because you don't do it initially. I don't do it initially. There's that come and go. There's that feeling it
Until that point.
Until that point.
Yeah.
And then I just left. And then I went back to Bath and lived with my mum again.
And what was that like? Was it sort of open arms welcomed you back, or?
A little bit. I mean, my mum would always love me no matter what, but she had a partner she'd been with for years and years. And I think now I'm an adult looking back and you've got this 18, 19-year-old or whatever coming home who's going out on a Friday and Saturday night getting drunk. And he was probably thinking, what the hell have I got here? And then they kicked me out.
Okay. And how old were you then?
Maybe probably within about 6 months. So maybe 1920.
Okay.
And I was working in the daytime, and I then went to work in shops, in fashion shops, but also at night I was working in a pub to earn money. And the guy that owned the pub had bought this townhouse in Bath, and he said to me, do you want a room and you can look after it? I went, yeah, all right. So I was the youngest there. It was hilarious, actually. And I used to live in the basement, not the basement, the ground floor. And then there was all these 3 women who were all in their late 20s. And I remember being the youngest one there, and they'd all come to me for advice. So emotional advice. It was so funny. And I lived there for a while. And just kind of floated around Bath for a while, I think. No great plan, no great
just
anything.
Living life, enjoying each day.
Yeah, definitely.
And were you happy?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was so happy. I've always thought there was more.
Mm-hmm.
I always knew there was more. And I didn't know what that more was, by the way.
Okay.
I'm not saying it was financial or I just knew there was more to life than whatever this was.
Mm-hmm.
And then I met my first husband. Wild. Very wild. We get together, we split up, we get together, we split up, we get together, we split up. It's been on for years.
Is this like high highs, low lows?
Yeah. I mean, there was the passion was unbelievable. And then I definitely loved him. And then we didn't see each other for quite a few months.
Mm-hmm.
And then he phoned me up on March the 1st, after I've not seen him for months. And we'd had one of our split ups. And he said, hello, Max. It's your birthday Thursday. Fancy getting married? I'm like, yeah, all right.
Oh, wow. Like as a birthday present.
Yes. But I knew I loved him.
Okay. But do you know what was behind his sudden, hey, why not let's just get married? Happy birthday.
Because I think he loved me.
Okay.
But we used to argue like mad. My attitude was, I will go out. We lived in the centre of Bath then. I will go out to when I want, as long as I'm not unfaithful, I'll do what I want, which is actually not a very grown-up relationship. And so it didn't last very long.
Okay.
And then I went to work in, I did some sales and marketing for a few little guest houses and country houses in Bath. And I then met my second husband. And
was he very different to the first?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the second husband was, I was at a wedding. There was lots of flirty people around. And I wasn't supposed to be at that wedding.
Okay. You were a guest or a guest of a guest?
I was working in a hotel, sales marketing, and the manager was nicking money, and I knew he was.
Okay.
But I had to have evidence before I went to the owner.
Okay.
And so there's a big wedding going on this weekend, and it was a ski commentator. So there's always really good looking skiers there. And my friend, I said, look, I'm supposed to be going to London. Can you come to Bath? We'll sit in the back and just watch what's going on. I have to get evidence. And so we sat right in the back, ignored everybody, just pretended we weren't there.
Yep.
Got the evidence we needed. And then the next day, I went back to the hotel and they were all still partying. I think they'd gone to bed for a few hours. And they were playing this game. If I was a car, I'd be this. If I was a bottle of wine, I'd be this. And you had to guess who it was. Yep. And the only man that ignored me all weekend was my second husband. And he said, when it came to him, if I was a car, I'd be this. If I was a bottle of wine, I'd be this. Mm-hmm. So him and I really didn't actually speak any words. Mm-hmm. Like I spoke to everyone else.
Yeah.
Because I have this thing, if I really fancy them, I ignore them. Not great. And I sent him a card, a sepia postcard of the hotel the following week. saying, if you want to share a bottle of Chateau Lynch Moussards, which is what he said he would be, with the lady you went to bed thinking about all weekend. And the lady
I like the confidence.
I like, where the flipping hell? I look at that girl and I think, go girl.
I like the confidence.
Me too. Yeah. And he phoned me up and then we got married. Well, obviously, we dated
a bit
first.
later.
Yeah, so that was, I was full of it, man. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I love that. I see that confidence in you today.
I am confident. My self-worth, I think that's what I have to work on and what I've always tried to work on. So I think I've always been confident. I've always had to be.
Yep.
You know, having an alcoholic mother, I was the one that had to do everything. I was the front of our family, if you like.
Yep.
And I've actually having to fend for yourself, you know, like all the rest of it. But when it comes to self-worth, I'm okay now, but I don't think I've allowed myself to be in shit situations in relationships.
Yep.
So I've allowed myself to. So that is always something I'm aware of.
Okay.
I would not let anyone treat me like that now. Absolutely not.
But you learn over time, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think people are always shocked when I tell them that. You know, it's yes, we're all works in progress, my darling.
Indeed. So what was it like being married to your second husband?
So Rob was very successful, had a very good business. I wanted for nothing. I was very spoilt.
So it's a contrast then, a massive contrast to how you grew up.
Huge contrast.
And what was that like?
Weird.
Okay.
I never felt like anything was mine. But that was my own doing, not his, because he was really good.
Is that because he was the financial provider? So you felt that?
He was the financial provider. So I was with him 2 years. Then I moved in with him. He was older than me, 10 years older. He had 2 children that I adore. So I got 2 step girls and 2 girls of our own. So he was the provider. I moved into his house. When we argued, he'd move out. And I love him for that, actually. I mean, how easy would it? I know.
Yeah.
I'm leaving. All right, go on. Knock yourself out. And I actually respect him for that a lot. But I still never felt it was mine. I never felt enough. But that was my doing, not his.
Okay.
And we, like I said, he had 2 children. And I met him I think I moved in when I was about 26, something like that. 27 maybe. No. Met him when I was about 26, 27. Moved in when I was 28. And then moved in when I was 29, had Darcy when I was 31.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I wanted for nothing. I had a very spoilt life in the sense of, well, it depends what you're looking at, as in it was spoiled to me.
Yep.
Some people might think it wasn't. Like,
what sorts of things?
I never had to consider how much I spent on food shopping. To me, that was very spoiled. Yep. If I wanted a pair of shoes, I went and bought them. But it was like, I wouldn't go and buy designer shoes. Yeah, like I do now.
But just the fact that you could, go and buy any pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Think about it.
And we holidayed. He had a successful business. We holidayed a lot with the children. We had what I would term, compared to my own upbringing, was a absolutely privileged, and it was a privileged life. Yep. I wanted for nothing. It depends how much I'm comparing it to
where you came from. Yeah.
And Rob was the provider, so I paid no bills. I didn't write it. We used to write checks in those days. I remember when we did split up, I hadn't written a check for like 20 years. Okay. I hadn't done anything.
So, I mean, you mentioned splitting up. So how long were you together and what was the cause of you splitting up?
Yeah. So we together about 13 years in total. And we bought this beautiful part of a farmhouse in France in the French Alps. And we spent a year doing it up. And what should have been a most beautiful weekend moving in with the girls who were 9 and 11. I remember looking around and we were talking to each other like we were something on the bottom of each other's shoe.
Okay.
And I remember thinking, this isn't right.
But had it been like that for a while?
I think there was a lot about Rob I resented.
Okay.
I think looking back, I resented I had no financial power.
Okay. But again, you said that it wasn't necessarily him. It was how you perceived the situation.
I think so. I mean...
And what do you mean by not having financial power?
Yeah. This is quite sick to say this now, but my nickname in the 90s was Spendy Spice.
Okay.
Seriously. I mean, it's not a great name to have. And I do think it's part of my ADHD, by the way. If I would go out and buy everything in one colour. If the girls want, and it was like, and he never, ever complained. But I think there was a power there.
Okay.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not bad-mouthing anybody. He was quite good, actually. Because I'd say to him, why don't you just give me an allowance? Which sounds so awful now. Because he was the breadwinner. And he'd say, you've got to learn.
Okay.
And I never did, really.
Okay.
And I think... I don't think I knew this at the time. But looking back, there was so much more to me than just that life. It was having lunch. It was having dinner. And don't get me wrong, a lot of people would die for that life, right? And I get it. It was never enough for me.
You felt like something was missing?
I felt like a bit of a trophy.
Okay.
And that wasn't anyone's doing. I think I had done that to myself. And Spendy Spice was always talked about at dinner parties.
Okay.
And it was always, what's Spendy Spice been up to? And it, when you look at it, it's quite revolting, really. And I take responsibility for that, by the way.
Yep.
And so I think there was never an equal power there.
Okay.
I was almost like the disbehaved teenager in that relationship. And that was my doing, by the way.
Yep.
Anyway, this particular weekend, I just thought, I don't want my girls thinking this is a fully functioning, loving relationship when we are talking to each other like we're something on the bottom of our shoe. I gave him a bottle of wine. I said, I'm going to take the girls for a walk. I will come back. I want to know, are you happy?
Okay.
And I came back. He said, no. And I said, thank you for finding the courage because I know he's been divorced before.
Okay. And,
you know, we built this life together and I know it's going to be hard. He was also, so he actually said to me, this is really interesting. He said to me, why are you doing this now? I said, because you're about to sell your business.
So he was about to sell his business. So he was about to come into a lot of cash.
Yeah.
And you decided that that was the right time to leave.
Yeah.
Okay, so explain that.
And I still stand by that today.
Okay.
Because I knew I wasn't happy. I knew at some point I was going to leave. And waiting for the money to come would have been completely wrong in every way, shape. And that was I am very much, I like to do the right thing by people. It's something I'm hugely, it's more than passion. It's just, that's how I've been brought up.
Yep.
And I knew I wasn't happy. And my friend said to me, what have you done? Like, he's going to lose that money overnight. And I went, but it was the right thing to do. I could never look my children in the eye or sleep soundly, for me, by the way, knowing I wasn't happy and he was about to sign that deal because I was going to divorce him at some point. And so it just felt right.
So was it a case that you were sort of saying, right, if he sells this business and I divorce him, I'm going to I would be able to take some of that money.
Yeah, and I felt like I was taking it, which is so wrong.
Okay.
We was together 13 years. And I see that now. It's taken me a long time to see that, though. A long, long time.
So you were sort of like, if I know I'm going anyway,
it's all his.
Then he's can have it.
Work for it.
It's really interesting you say that because I, you know, it's something that comes up with in conversations that I have with women today. Like I know quite a lot of women who are stay-at-home mums and they stay at home and they don't work and they don't, or they think that they don't contribute financially just because they're not the ones, you know, earning the salary with the money going to their bank account. But then I'm like, what about everything else that you do? You know, a relationship isn't just about who provides financially. What about the mental load and everything else? And that has worth.
Yeah. Oh, it does. And I can see that now.
Yeah.
I can feel that now. It's the important thing for me is like, even when I see something, I've got to feel it. Right. So it's taken me a long time. And I say it's in the last few years that I've just thought, actually, you know, when I worked out how much I would have earned, my hourly rate within that family, it's about 120 grand a year. The hours I put in. But my old-fashionedness or whatever it was, I always felt like it was his money. And he never made me feel like that, by the way.
Okay, it was just something
doing.
Yeah. Okay.
Never, actually. He was very good like that. And so, they said, I want a divorce. And he said, fine. And then he went from being worth quite a lot of money to not a lot of money overnight. I don't have a problem with that, by the way. A lot of people do. He was fighting his corner. I was fighting mine. And what I will say is divorce is ugly.
Okay.
Mine was.
Okay. I mean, I don't think I've heard any stories of where it's pleasant.
Well, we tried to go down the collaborative route where we both sat in a room and chatted with our solicitors. My solicitor was vile.
Your solicitor?
Yep.
Who chose yours?
Me.
You did?
Because it was the one that everyone told me to go to because she is really good with women, right?
Okay.
So I went to her and she said to me, within the first hour, how many credit cards and debit cards you got? I went, I don't know, 4, whatever. She went, draw the maximum amount out every day on every single one until you get stopped.
Oh, she basically wanted to screw him.
And I said,
every which way.
Yeah. And I said, no. I was the only woman to have ever refused. And I said, I won't do that. Now, we are divorcing. I never married a bad man. He was never going to leave me and the kids with no money. I know that. He probably won't. If he hid some, that's fine, right? It's not fine.
Yeah, but
I knew he was never going to leave us penniless.
Yep.
And I didn't do it. And I ended up, so the collaborative route ended up costing me £80,000 and got me nowhere.
Wow.
I was the one that sat in the room and said, this collaborative process is broken down. I'm coming out of it because it's gone on for so long. We've not got anywhere.
Yep. But what was it that you were both arguing for that you couldn't agree on?
I just think at the time, I'm talking like 15 years ago now, I think the solicitors just like messed around to make money. I really do. So she'd phone me up every couple of days. Oh, hi, Maxine, how are you? Chat. What I didn't realise is that was ching.
Charging you.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Right? And I felt quite violated, to be honest with you. So I stepped out of that process and then I went to see another solicitor in Birmingham because I'm in the Midlands. And I was telling him about it. And well, on the way home, Rob phoned me up. He said, you've been to see so-and-so, haven't you? I said, how do you know? He said, he phoned my solicitor to tell him. Yeah.
Wow.
They all work together, apparently.
Interesting.
And they all say, I'll win that one, you win that one. That's how it used to be.
Okay.
So at that point, I went home. I'd already battened down the hatches because my friends were like, oh, I don't know what sides to take. And I said, you haven't got to take sides. I'm going to remove myself from the situation. And, so I battened down the hatches. Me and the girls moved out of the house, the marital home. And I then I tried to take every bit of emotion out of my divorce and look at it as a business transaction.
In what sense?
How I was going to get through this, because it was getting quite ugly then. And I thought, okay, I need to take emotion out of this. I need to make sure I do the right thing for me and the girls. I need to make sure I'm making the right decisions based on facts, not emotion.
Yep.
And that's what I did. And then I did some research and I found this solicitor called David Sterrett in Gloucester. I thought, just Googling, I thought he looks all right. And I sent him an email on a Monday, just before I left the school run. I said, I've just stepped out of a collaborative process. I chose to step out of because it's not worked. I have not got the patience, the finance, or the energy to battle a solicitor's ego in or out of court. If you think you can help me, within 10 minutes, you phone me up.
I love it.
Yeah, honestly. And him and I got on really, really well. It did end up going to the High Court in London. And the judge was like, and I went on my own. I remember going on my own. I just wanted to do it on my own. I didn't want to involve other people. Rob was there with his entourage. And insisted we break for lunch and all the rest of it. And I just remember going in, looking at the judge, and I'm not religious, but I remember thinking, please do right by both of us. That's all I ever wanted. And the judge came out and he said, I'm really confused. He said, reading this, it looks like a multi-million-pound case, but it's not. But it was at the beginning.
Yep.
And so we ended up having a divorce settlement and I ended up getting maintenance for life, which Rob did not want 1 iota, which I stopped a couple of years ago.
So you got maintenance for life. That's rare.
Yeah, it is rare. I think the judge had known something had gone on.
Okay.
Like something had been not hidden, but
okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I got maintenance for life, which obviously he didn't want.
Mm-hmm.
And
that maintenance was for you and the girls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was a big sum.
Okay.
And there's no tax on, well, I say a big sum. It felt like a big sum then, probably doesn't anymore.
But it was enough for you and the girls to move on. And
yeah. And then we bought a house and the girls and I did it up together. And that was lovely. I remember, I always say that period of time, although it was so painful, leaving Rob, dragging my girls away from their home, from the life that I knew was going to change overnight, because I couldn't provide that for them.
Yep.
I couldn't provide holidays in Dubai and 6 weeks in Mallorca and all that. I knew it was going to be really hard.
Yep.
But I knew long term it was the right thing, because if I wanted my children to have fully functioning, beautiful relationships, I needed to show them this was wrong. And the girls and I talk about it a lot, actually, and they are glad I did it. And I see them now. We were just talking about it just now. We just had an interview with a journalist. And I see them now in their relationships. It makes me so happy because they are so balanced. They're respectful. There's equal power. And it's just beautiful to see.
Yep.
And that makes me really, really happy. I know I did the right thing. And then I stopped his maintenance a couple of 5 years ago, and he nearly fell off the chair.
But I guess you were in a position to. So let's just take it back a bit. So when did you actually start Absolute Collagen? Like, tell us about that.
So I've always had crazy business ideas, right?
Okay.
I cannot walk across an empty room without getting inspired by something. That's just the person I am. And I've come to terms with that now. It's Maxine. And whilst I think everyone thinks my ideas are crazy, I actually do them. And so I remember when the girls were 11 and 13. So we'd left Rob, we'd doing the house up, and I had a crazy idea for a business. And I said to the girls, right, I found a manufacturer. We're going in October, half term. They went, right, where? I went, China. And off we went. My girls thought it was normal. I thought it was normal. But I thought about that idea so long that I missed the boat.
Okay. What was that idea?
It was, you remember all the kids were wearing bands with slogans on?
Yeah.
Plastic bands, right? This was called Wannabe.
Okay.
And you got the band, you put it on at poppers, and you collected the poppers. Want to be a footballer, want to be a friend, want to be a partner, want to be a ballerina. Yeah. But I thought about it so long, I overcooked the idea.
Okay.
But that was kind of interesting. The girls think that's normal, right? Yeah, go to China. Yeah.
Mum has an idea. Let's go to China, test it out.
Well, do you know, the idea I had when I was living in the centre of Bath, 24, I had a flat and my hall was communal. If somebody phoned me, I'd know they phoned me because I left an answer machine message. If they come to the house, I didn't know. I went to a solicitor. So I've got an idea for a business. And the solicitor was like, I would buy that. And it was the intercom answer machine.
Okay.
Ring doorbell.
Yep. You were just decades too early.
Yes. But I was so overwhelmed. He told me about patent prototype, and I was so overwhelmed. I went, I can't do this. So I've always been that way.
Sort of had an entrepreneurial spirit. Yeah. Always see business ideas everywhere you go.
And I always see a silver lining in everything. I have that ability, which I think is a gift, actually. And so Darcy went off to university. 18.
Is this your older or youngest daughter?
Eldest daughter went off to university. Margot, my youngest, had just passed a driving test. I was 49, so 10 years ago. I was sat in bed celebrating not doing the school run. Hallelujah. And I thought, my God, I can do whatever I want now. Like, oh my God, what should I do? And I decided to do a fine art degree.
Okay.
And during that fine art degree, it was just lovely. My first project within the first year was a project called Dare to Go Bare. And I used to have long, dark, curly hair. I had all my hair cut off. I let it go. Well, I stripped the colour because I saw it dyed every 4 weeks. It went yellow. Not a good look. I wore no makeup and I wore really, really dowdy clothes, like long, baggy like T-shirts for about 4 months. This was before lockdown. So everything changed in lockdown for the better in that sense. And the whole project was, as a woman of a certain age, if I removed every single external mask, would I disappear in people's vision?
Okay.
What it made me realise is I'd already disappeared in mine. And I don't know if I'd ever been Maxine.
Okay.
I think I'd always been whatever anyone
Somebody
wanted me
else.
to, whether it being adopted, like to fit in, or being ADHD, you're masking, or then I stepped into Rob's life because his life was much more exciting than mine. And so it was always being somebody else, I think. And I just thought, wow, this is stirring up so many emotions. I felt insecure. It was horrendous. And I had this little yellow post-it note on my mirror saying, "You are enough." And every morning and every evening I clean my teeth, I'd look at that and I'd read it like as if I'd read it for the first time. And I sit on the edge of my bed and I put this make-believe onesie on, and that onesie was Maxine. And weirdly enough, I've got a couple of friends that will say, "I've never felt that. I've always been me." And we're all very different. But I definitely masked for a lot of my life. And I don't know why, whatever. And during that time, I started looking at myself as a whole, so physical, emotional, spiritual. And the first physical thing I did is I started making and drinking bone broth.
Okay. And why bone broth? Had you seen it somewhere?
Because the Americans are drinking it, darling. And if they're drinking it, I was going to have some. And I just had an amazing sense of well-being. And my friends were like, "What are you doing?" Because you started off looking a bit dodgy, but actually, I said, "I reckon this is bone broth." And literally, I felt like a drug dealer. If I ran out, they'd go mental, right? Now, I'm not a kitchen person. Anyone will tell you that.
Yeah.
I could cook for 20, but I don't. Do I enjoy it? That's what it is. I don't have a passion for it. And so I got quite bored quite quickly. And I was making, and I had massive vats of this stuff and giving it to my friends. And
literally just making it in your kitchen.
Yeah. And then, so I'm a great believer in energy. And I'm a great believer in, if your energy's right, good things happen. And if the energy aligns.
100%.
I really do think that.
Me too.
And if the energy aligns, so I went off to university to do fine art. Darcy was doing psychology because that's where the grammar school had pushed her.
Okay.
She changed at the last minute to do food science.
Okay.
There was no connection. So I didn't discover the collagen until probably about 6 months in. Supplements are collagen. Supplements are a food. And she was doing food science. So she said to me, "I'm just going to take that to the school at university to make sure you don't kill your friends." I was like, "Yeah, knock yourself out."
So because you were making it at home in the kitchen
She
and
was
basically
saying
giving it out to all your friends, she said, "Actually, let me just take a little bit."
She is the sensible one. I'm the emotion, she's the science.
Okay.
And that's how it works.
So she took some in, and what was she doing with it?
She wanted to make sure I didn't kill my friends.
Well, yeah, that'd be a good thing.
And then she worked out that so there was a jelly that formed on top. And because I do, again, I know I keep on about ADHD, but as a mother as well, we are solution focused, right? So if there's something to do and there's no one to do it, we will do it, right? Yep. And there was no one else to work it out. And I was fixated on this jelly.
Okay.
I was like, "What is that jelly?" Because I know it's not fat. It hadn't congealed. What is it? It's weird. What is it? And Darcy worked out that it was a protein called collagen.
Okay.
And that is really...
And it was sitting on top of the bone broth. And when you were sort of taking, or, consuming it for yourself or giving it to your friends, it was the bone broth and that collagen layer on top.
Drink it warm. So the jelly you wouldn't see it until it was cold.
So how did you, or at what point did you understand it was that bit on the top that was the gold, if you like?
Well, when we worked out that it was a protein called collagen, I was like, then I started researching collagen and I go off on a tangent. I'm phoning up food standards. I'm phoning up scientists. I'm like... And again, I think this is the beauty of a woman. I really will ask any question. I don't mind if I look stupid. Okay. I will phone up and I will ask. There's no one else to do it, right? And I guess that comes from my childhood. There was no one else to do it, so you have to do it. And so I kept phoning people up and they must have got so sick to death of me, honestly.
I think it's more to do with your childhood, because I find that a lot of women sort of say, "Oh, I don't speak up or I don't say things because I don't want to seem silly, or I feel out of place, so I don't say it." So I think it's what you said about your childhood, and just... one of the reasons you are where you are today are because there were sort of things that you just inherently picked up or that you learned because of your experiences.
I believe so. And I'm really thankful for that, by the way. I do work with the Birmingham, with the Prince's Trust. I used to be a patron, and I work with their young people who, have had really hard start. And I say to them, "I know this feels painful, but I'm telling you now, you are learning things that really don't feel like gifts right now. But when you're an adult, you will look back and go, oh my God, I'm resilient. I've got intuition. I can get stuff done." All the things that a lot of people can't do. And I do believe that.
Absolutely. I mean, today I think it's not the same today, but definitely, 10 years, 15 years ago, it was, you've got to go to school, you've got to go to university, get a good degree that will help you get a good job, etc. And I think one of the things about your story that I love is that you didn't have a traditional path.
No, not at all.
And so I think for a lot of people out there, it's an example of what can happen. It can be done. You know, you don't have to follow the traditional route or the traditional path.
And you know what I will say, and I say this a lot, I had no business experience, right? And nor did Darcy.
Mm-hmm.
All we ever had to do was the next right thing.
So how did you go from, we found this collagen thing on the top of the broth.
Yeah.
How did you go from that to thinking this can be a business?
We didn't.
Okay.
I was just like, how can I make this really easy for me and my friends? Because I ain't cooking this up anymore. It's really hard work.
Okay.
I'm bored of being in the kitchen.
Okay.
And I looked at what was out there. I looked up from my pots and there was a skin supplement or a couple, but they were really expensive and they need to keep in the fridge. And I was like, and it was all about me. Okay. I need to make it as easy as possible. I don't have to keep it in the fridge. I don't want to pay a lot of money for it. I want the maximum collagen. We'd done a lot of speaking to scientists at that point, so we knew what collagen we wanted. We knew it was marine. At the time, marine was better. We knew we wanted it hydrolyzed, means it's broken down, because collagen's a protein, and when you ingest it, it shouldn't go into your body because it's a protein. It should get, but it goes into your bloodstream and it does help your collagen, and it does what it says on the tin. But that was all we were sort of finding out, and I wanted it in a sachet. We did try it in bottles first of all. I wanted it as small dose as possible because I weren't going to drink a lot. I wanted it easy. So everything we did, our whole business model was based on how can we make this as simple as possible for her to take? And I was the first her.
Okay.
And even, so it was marine collagen, it was hydrolyzed. We knew we needed 8 grams. We wanted minimum water. We put it in a bottle first of all, but it was very gloopy because the Greek word for collagen is kolla, which means glue. So if you've got a lot of powdered glue, because it comes in powder and you'll put in a tiny bit of water and it gloops. And that was another thing. I remember going to somebody that had been blending for 2 very, very big high street chains for 25 years. And I went to him with my formula. And believe me, it's taken me a long time to get this formula. It wasn't easy. And he said to me, "This is a stupid formula. It will not blend." I went, "No, you're right. But this is the 2 steps I take."
Okay.
Because I'd worked out, because I'm a woman, because I'm a doer, because as a child there was no one else to do stuff, I had to do it. I'd worked out that I had to mix this to such high velocity to get it mixed. But what that meant is it created a massive head, and that was the problem.
Okay.
But if you heated it overnight, the head disappeared.
Okay.
And he phoned me back a week later and went, "Oh my God." So what I took from that and what I still take from that is sometimes you can have too much knowledge.
And sometimes it actually stops you because then you see all the risks or you see the pitfalls or you're like, it's not going to work because of X, Y, Z. Yeah.
And he was like, "Oh my God, this is quite genius." And so that's how we started. And, there's lots of, and like I said, the business model that gets copied every single day. Supplement industry is phenomenal right now. If there's any investigative journalists out there, phone me. Because it's shocking. It's the Wild West out there. So the business model that gets copied every day, even to the point of I wanted her to get the best deal with the subscription. Just our Absolute has always been my North Star. She's my mother every single decade of her life, and I will not let her down. Yep. So she's our North Star. So I want it to be as easy as possible. I wanted it to, she should subscribe, but she can cancel anytime she wants, right? So I'll buy into you, but you can actually, I'll get the best deal for you, but I want you to commit, but you can cancel anytime. Darcy created a parcel letterbox friendly, so it went for the door, because I know how long her to-do list is. So it's either waiting in or going to the post office. Done. So everything we did was to make her life easy. Direct to consumer, I was told in 2017, "Who are you? You're no one. You need the backing of a big brand. You need to be in retail." I'm like, "No, but I want a relationship with her. I want to educate her. I want," and that's what we've always done. And we are in retail now.
Is that how you built the business, like through community?
Yeah, 100% community. And I remember I employed somebody really, really early on to do community because I was busy doing everything else. And I did not want any one question to go unanswered because that was rude. Because I'd reached out to brands before and nobody ever got back to me. And I thought, that's rude. So it was all about her. And I always say, And it follows my own journey. Whenever I give somebody a yellow sachet, I'm giving them their spotlight to see themselves, possibly for the first time in a long, long time, like I did when I sat on the edge of the bed every morning during that 4 months. And I realized that I was important. And when I took all my external masks off and laid myself completely bare, I realized that actually, Maxine, you are really important. And there's your spotlight. Go and stand in it. Yeah. Not with, oh my God, I'm here, but with a humble grace that just says, I'm here for me now. And
I love that.
Yeah, that's
I mean, one of the reasons, I was telling you earlier, I take collagen, I have an LED mask. It's about something for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Having time for me and focusing on making myself physically better. And
we find that with a lot of our absoluters come to us, and it is probably the first thing they've done for themselves for a long, long time. And and it's just lovely to see, because we all know when we feel better, we look better and all the rest of it. So that's how we started.
So I want to talk a bit now about, obviously the business has done phenomenally well. Let's talk a bit about the financial side of things. So you took some money out of the business not too long ago. So, tell us a little bit about the rapid growth of the business, but then why at that point you took some money out, and what was that like?
So we grew incredibly fast, but we'd never done it before. So we didn't know it was fast. We'd never run a business before. I just knew that this collagen kept selling, and we were in the garage packing 3,000 parcels a week, and it was going mental. But we had no barometer. We had nothing to kind of, no guiding light. And then we were just doing so well. I got to the point where we didn't need money. We had money because the money that came into the business from our absoluters belonged to them. And how can we best serve them? It never belonged to me. And that's how I see every penny in my business. Okay. And I wanted every single penny I spent to be questioned.
Okay.
Because it was theirs, right? And I guess I wanted to put some safety nets in. And so I wanted brilliant people around the table to teach me and my team and to question everything, because I thought that was the right thing to do. And I still think that's the right thing to do, by the way. And so I said it's really interesting actually, because back in 2019, Alison Rose, she was the CEO of NatWest. Yep. And the government had commissioned her to do the Rose Review. And I went to see the Rose Review when she published her findings. And I went on my own, and I remember being in the room. Nobody ever wants to know me because I was the one that I had this crazy product. I was,
crazy product was doing phenomenally well.
Well, but people didn't know because I had no degree, I had no experience. And in those days,
did you really think people treated you differently, despite the fact that you had a business that was amazingly successful?
No one knew, because it was direct to consumer. No one knew it was successful. Okay. And it wasn't in the press or anything. So it went under the radar quite a lot.
And also, I guess you were a private company, and that you didn't, in the early days, you didn't take on any external funding.
No. And so we started the business in 2017, set it up in late 2015. It actually went live properly May 2017. So this was the Alison Rose Review was 2019. And the only reason I went to the Alison Rose Review is because I was turning over £10 million. I was cash rich, as in the bank. I could not get my bank to take my call.
Wow.
Yes. Wow. I'm not going to tell you who that bank is, but I still have a major problem with them today. Okay. They've never apologized.
So you needed to speak to your bank. You were clearly a very lucrative customer.
And I was in post-traumatic stress because all I wanted to do was check a payment and nobody would call me back, right? And I went to the Alison Rose Review, and at the end I put my hand up. She said, have you got any questions? There's a sea of like 500 women. And I said, how do I get my bank to call me back? I was absolutely beaten. And she came up to me at the end, and I've really got a lot of time for Alison, by the way. And she was absolutely lovely. Anyway, she said, why don't you look at the NatWest Accelerator Program? And I was like, okay, why not? And I went along, and they said, what do you want to learn? And I said, I want to learn all about investment. Just teach me about investment. Okay. So I spent 6 months learning all about investment. At the end of that 6 months, I had decided I was going to go for investment. So I said to my team, right, I've learned all about investment. This is not our money. This belongs to the Absolute. We can spray paint everywhere, but that's her money. That doesn't feel right. Or we can have a strategic plan. The only way you can get a strategic plan is by getting people with experience. So I think we need to go for investment. And my team, as in my daughter and tech guy Brad, were like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Because
it was about going for investment to bring money into the business to help you grow, but also to bring expertise, to bring knowledge.
If I'm totally honest, there was a naivety. I didn't think about the money. And I know that sounds really weird, but at the time I didn't. It was about bringing knowledge in. So I didn't know at that point the money was going to come to us. I thought it was going to go to the business. Right? I didn't know. And so first offer I got was in Birmingham. I'm not going to mention his name either. And he said, your business is worth 5 million. I'll put in $1 million. I was like, oh my God, that's really good. Oh my God, that's really good. I'm like, Darcy. And I went, do you know what? I'm just going to have a look out because I am.
You said you were doing 10 million of revenue.
Yeah. I'm like, well, I'm going to come back, circle back to him.
Because my immediately there were alarm bells in my head.
Yeah, well, there was. There definitely was. Yeah. But I was very naive, by the way. These chairs are really nice, by the way. And I then said, I'm just going to go. I'm not sure about that. And I went to an investment bank. So somebody that looks for investment. So they're like, I always liken them though to a dating agency for would-be investors. So they kiss all the frogs for you. So they only put people in front of you that are really interested in your field. So they put 5 or 6 companies in front of us, investment people. We had 4 offers on the table and our business was valued at £42 million. So I knew. When that guy said 5 million,
he was trying to.
Oh, he was. But I could
Unbelievable,
actually. And I saw him about 6 months ago and he knew. And I looked at him, I won't. Yeah.
And I'm guessing here, but I'm assuming he looked at you and thought, I can tell her it's 5. She won't know it's worth more. Exactly. Let me see if I can get away with this.
Yeah. And there was another accountancy firm that was quite rude as well, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Yeah. Literally. And I see him now and I bet he's...
See, this is the thing that frustrates me sometimes. Like, you can't just assume that because somebody is financially literate or they come from a firm that they necessarily have your best interests at heart.
Oh, they definitely don't. You have to be really careful. You have to... And this is where your gut comes in. This is where your instinct comes in. This is where that little girl who was 7 years old who had to walk into the room and see, who do I trust? That's where all her skills came into play because something told me that wasn't right. So we then went to an investment bank, as I said. We had 4 offers on the table. That was hard work, by the way. And I'm not going to sit here and say I did all the work. I didn't. The thing I'm really, really good at is knowing what I'm not good at and bringing people in. And I did it on day one. So whether it was tech, I had to build a website. I'm not going to do it. I have no idea what I'm doing. We had to do subscription. That was Brad's job. I'm not good at ordering stock. I'm crazy in my head. So Darcy picked up all that. So she was operations and somebody else did the finance. And I know what I'm not good at. I was doing the finance for a long time, by the way. I'm just squirreling it away. This is not our money. This is not our money. We're taking such a tiny wage as well. In fact, when we did the investment, they were like, "Are you only taking that?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "So this was a lot of money," but they were like, "No, you need to take a lot more than that wages." And I think that's another thing that women do. We don't pay ourselves enough.
I hear that as well.
Oh, I still don't actually. To be honest with you. And so we had 4 offers on the table. We didn't go with the one that was going to grow us the fastest because it was a journey for us. We wanted to enjoy it. We didn't go with the one that offered the most money because it was never about the money, which sounds so ridiculous, but it wasn't. We went with the company that I knew I could have those really terrible conversations with because believe me, you're going to have them. And I knew that.
So what was it like when you actually had that money in the bank, that feeling? Because, you know, is it that, okay, I have all this money now, I know what to do with it? Or did you go and get advisors? Or
it's quite frightening, really. So overnight,
despite everything, despite the fact that obviously, you know, you'd been married to somebody before who had some wealth, you've then grown this business, so you'd become more knowledgeable. You went on the NatWest program, but when you had those investors come on board and you took some money out and it was sitting in your bank account, you felt...
I felt really insecure. For the first 2 weeks, I was like, oh my God, this is brilliant. Like, whoa, I no longer woke up every morning and went, there was some level of calm.
And this is life-changing sums of money we're talking about, right? It was
life-changing sums of money. It really, we're talking multi-millions. And so obviously some went to the shareholders. There's other shareholders, Brad, there's Darcy, there's Margot, both my children work in the business. And the rest came to me. It was a lot of money sat in my bank. And the first thing I did was give lots away, which I know you're going to go
to
mad.
who?
Stepchildren, nephew, people that helped me in the business. Yeah.
Okay.
That was the first
But I think,
thing
throughout
did.
this entire conversation, I think something that's really stood out for me is that you're always thinking about other people and doing the right thing. So as much as I think that might surprise some people, it actually doesn't surprise me. But one of the other things that I wanted to talk about with you is, you've obviously built this business with your daughters. So are you thinking about your wealth sort of collectively, or is there like a portion that's for you or a portion for them? And sort of...
This is really interesting. So first of all, the money went in the bank. I didn't know what to do with it. And you really need to get advice. But you need to get advice.
Like financial advice.
You can trust that speaks to you on your level. Because I'm good at making money, but I'm not very good at looking after it.
Okay.
Right? And I'm not very literate either when it comes to money. And I need somebody like you who is able to work out how I need talking to, because some people would like you to think they know it all and you have to talk to them in that way, and that's fine. But with me, you have to talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old. Okay. Right? Seriously. And I'm okay with that, by the way. So the money was there, and then it was like figuring out, okay, what do we do? I went with a top bank to begin with. That was a big mistake. Charged me a fortune when I look at it now. I just wanted it to be really, really secure and leave it.
Are you still with them, or you moved away?
I'm in the process of moving away.
Okay.
I mean, again, it's all to do with your risk factor, isn't it? So although I'm a risk taker beyond belief, when it comes to, it's really weird. I am a risk taker. I'm just not good with knowing what to do with money.
Okay.
Right. I really am not. And so, gave some away. The children were okay because they had shares. Sorry, what's the last question you asked me?
So is it that you think about it as sort of family wealth, or do you have your own pot? Do the kids have their own pot?
This is really interesting. So I think initially it was like the girls are okay. They've got shares, they've got theirs, and they're young. This is mine, right? Because I had the idea and I am the main shareholder. But Darcy's worked they've both worked incredibly hard. Darcy is my equal. And, if we go back to that crazy idea I had for the Velasic bands in China, I was at the bar having a drink when she was 13. She was Googling top questions to ask a manufacturer.
Okay, so she's always been there.
Why it works. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a different scenario. So yes, I've got most of the money. We're looking at now generational wealth and all the rest of it. I see Darcy as my equal, 100%. But she does a lot in the business. She's the science. Yep. She's 100% the science. Don't get me wrong, we've got head scientists and all the rest of it, but she is the science. She's the one that crosses the T's and dots the I's, which I don't. Okay. I'm better, but I always need someone to do that for me because I'm not great. I'm the... and so we're at the moment where we're at is I'm looking at transferring some of my shares to her.
Okay.
Now, this brings up a lot of like emotions and conversations, right? So in my head, part of me is, so I've gone through this whole scenario. Well, I've got the main shareholder, I have the money, you're okay. And actually you're only 20 something. I'm, 50 something, nearly 60 tomorrow. Well, I'm talking about 2 years ago now. And actually you can't have anything handed to you on a plate. I want you to have that hunger that I had. So how much,
But I think that's really important, by the way. I have seen this so many times, even with clients that I had at Goldman, where I actually think if people are given wealth too quickly or without really understanding how you earn money or how you make it, it can just go as far. So it's really important that even if you are going to pass wealth on to your children or another generation, that they understand what it's like to actually work for and earn money.
I think so. But on the other side of that, so there's lots going on here. So she's also an equal in the business. There's no doubt about that. And so she deserves, I should have made her, we should have given her more shares before we did the deal, before we did the investment, if I'm totally honest, but we didn't. We didn't know what we were doing then. Equally so, there's the other side of me that goes, okay, I've got all this money. I've got 30 years, whatever left. She's got, and I've got Margot as well, but just take Darcy as an example right now. She's got a lot younger, yet more than me, so she needs more money. So we're having those conversations now.
And is it your financial advisor who's helping you to think through those conversations in terms of how you kind of set it all up?
Yeah, but yes and no. Yes, there is. We've just moved, actually, financial advisors. So I won't do anything I don't feel comfortable with.
Okay.
Because I need to feel comfort's a thing for me.
Yep.
And there was a scenario where just before Christmas last year, so it's been going on for over a year now, where they were trying to just get me to sign shares over. And I was like, I just don't feel right because I didn't have the knowledge. Until I fully understand this, I will do nothing, which is why it's gone on for so long.
But that's so important. You absolutely. And I find this particularly with women that we want to understand. Yeah. We want to understand it.
Need to.
And feel comfortable with it before we then make the decision. And I always say to people, if you don't feel comfortable and you don't understand it, then don't do it.
And I didn't. And I haven't. Yep. So we're still having those conversations now. We're now looking at setting up a trust. It's a bit complicated at the moment because I'm in the middle of selling a house, the house I live in. So it's a little bit complicated at the moment. And Margot has just bought a house and hasn't sold her apartment. So there's quite a lot of moving parts.
But the trust seems to be the best way forward.
I think so. So how I look at the trust is, and Darcy is very instrumental in this as well, is like, okay, so Darcy's just split with a partner of 8 years, right? So I'm quite glad I didn't give her half shares.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
Because he'd have been entitled to that.
Were they married?
No, but I think there's a law where now they look at the whole. He wouldn't have got half, but he could have fought for it. And don't get me wrong, he did very well. He did incredibly well, actually, when he probably shouldn't have done, but hey ho. So say she gets married in 4 years' time. This is where it gets a little bit complicated because I know what it's like to be disempowered in a relationship with money too. So I never want their partners to feel really disempowered because I know what that feels like. However, there needs to be some generational respect where, you know, I want my grandchildren to benefit too from the hard work. And so that's where the trust comes in. So Darcy and Margot might get this and this, and then they've got their partners, but everything else goes into the trust and that's then protected. And I think that's right because it will pay for school fees and all the rest of it. Hey, we're not there yet.
No, I've seen it again with other families. I think trust structures can work really well. It really does depend how you set them up, but you can have all different types of structures and setup whereby, you know, this person is the beneficial owner, but this person maybe makes the decisions and they don't have to be the same people. I think trust structures actually give you a lot of flexibility, particularly when it comes to thinking about how to transition wealth from one generation to the next, and doing it in a tax efficient way. So, yeah,
I think if I hadn't thought this through with the trust in what I would have done, because this is so Maxine, it's like, there's your money, there's my money. If you spend it, tough, which is actually so disrespectful to the generation that is coming. But there's also part of me that my children are still close to my childhood because they see it, they've seen it, they felt it. My grandchildren are never going to know what that's like. And that worries me a little bit because I'd never want anyone to feel entitled because I hate that about a person. But
that's where the parenting comes in.
And it's not their fault. Yeah. But there has to be respect. And the great thing about a trust, because I don't like playing God either. I have a real problem with that. Like, I don't want to say, I just hate disempowering people in that way. I think it's horrible. And I don't want to be the one at the trust that goes, you can't have this and you can't have that. So it's where we discuss it together. But it also takes the edge off. They haven't then got to say to their partners, the trust is already there.
It's already there. It's already established. So it's not saying, oh, you can't have any of my thing. It's already there.
But what we've also discussed is so Margot has a partner, or Darcy meets somebody in a couple of years and they get married, they've also discussed that how much they would take into that marriage, because then no one wants to feel disempowered and they want a nice life. And they don't want to, like I was in the situation, was Rob, can I have that? Can I have that? And I don't think that they don't want that either.
Yep. So but it's nice that you've thought about all of this up front and now you're able to structure that within the trust. So I have another question for you now. And I guess this is a sort of final question as we're wrapping up. You know, for any women sort of listening out there who doesn't yet see herself as a wealth builder, what would you want her to know?
What would I want her to know? So if I go back to me within my marriage, when I thought he was the wealth builder and I wasn't, alongside every person's another person. And we're in it together. Yep. And it's never his or hers. It's the both of you. And I really believe that, by the way, because I've lived it. And I do think women are far too humble. Yep. And it doesn't do us any favors, because we're either humble or ball breakers, right? And do what's right for you. And I'm telling you now, if something doesn't feel right, do not do it. Yep. And sit with it and figure out why it doesn't feel right. Because again, what I've come to know about myself in business, I've had to make lots of decisions, is I always thought it was really clever to be a quick decision maker. It's actually not. It's sit with it. And if it doesn't feel right, don't do it until you either build that knowledge or whatever it is. And build that trust with someone where you can have those conversations. And if you want your financial person to talk to you in a certain language, I will tell any financial person, talk to me like I'm a 3-year-old, because I don't understand. Right?
And it's okay to not understand.
It's okay to not understand. It's not my skill, it's your skill. And I think women are wealth builders beyond belief. We just don't see ourselves.
We just need to have more belief in ourselves.
I don't know if that is ever going to come.
I'm optimistic. It's about sharing stories like yours, showing it can be done, showing that you never had all the right answers. You still don't have all the answers. You're learning, but it's about bringing the right people around you.
But it is about the right people.
Absolutely.
And you have to have those people that you can look in the eye, that you can say, I don't understand this. I feel uncomfortable with this.
And they're fine with it and they help you understand and they explain
because if someone's pushing you and you don't understand it, red flag.
And walk away. Yep. Okay, so very last thing, and I always do this at the end, there's a little surprise. You didn't know this is coming. I call it the Femme Fortune 5. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions and I want very quick fire answers. What comes into your mind first? Cash in the bank or equity in the business?
Equity in the business.
Trust the bank or trust yourself?
Trust myself. Oh! Trust myself. Oh my God, that's a really difficult one. I'm on the edge at the moment.
Okay. Equal or fair?
Oh, fair.
Give your children security or make them build it?
I was about to say both because of the situation I'm in.
Okay. And then last one, control or growth?
Growth.
Okay. Amazing. Thank you so much, Maxine. Although obviously I've known you for a while, there is so much there that I had never heard or didn't know. Honestly,
it's funny, isn't it? I mean, I get this all the time. People look at me and think, I don't know what they think. They always think I come from wealth. They always think I was a spoiled little child. I don't know where or I come from something.
Yep.
I don't know
because I think people assume that you have to have that background in order to build the wealth that you have. But the fact that we're going to be able to share your story, then other women are going to see it and be like, you know what? If she can do it, I can do it too.
And I think my final thing I would say is you do not know all the answers. And if you've got an idea for a business, I could have looked at that business for so long. And if I hadn't been brave enough to take that step, it would never have happened. You're not going to know all the answers. You're not.
And you're never going to have it all figured out. No. You're never going to feel 100% certain. At some point, you have to take that leap.
And also, you can come to a junction, I believe, in life and business, and I've learned this, that I used to get so paralyzed by having to make a decision. What I've realized is actually either way could be the right way.
Yep.
So
you'll make it work.
Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure.